Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Triathlete Podcast, the show where we celebrate the personal fitness journeys of people around the world. Our guest for today is an old friend of mine, Raghav Goel. Raghav and I go way back to our college days when both of us used to participate in a lot of extracurricular activities together. Raghav, it's so great to have you on the show and reconnect with you after so many years. I think it's been about 20 years since we first met. So wonderful to have you here. Would you like to start by introducing yourself?
Yeah, first I want to thank Ram for having me and giving me this opportunity to share my experience and talk to you about it and on this podcast. And just to let everybody know, this is going to be my first podcast, so take things lightly. So, in order to introduce myself, so I run a family business here in India in manufacturing. I stay in Delhi with a beautiful wife and two lovely kids, aged 7 and 10. We so I usually was not so much into fitness earlier, so it was on and off bits here and there. But fitness has always been something which has been of utmost importance for all of us.
Interesting. So if I go back to college days, you used to be a sportsman in college, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I was part of the hockey team. You remember the great Anak Kohli,
Oh yeah.
and then I was also part of the football team. And played inter IIT, and I was the secretary for my hostel too. That about it. So fitness was there, but it was not like to a great level. But I
Interesting.
really loved doing what I did, and I think sports was one of the most fun parts of being in IIT for me.
Nice. And is that something you continued after graduation, or did it fall away?
So it was just on and off, like hitting the gym a few times a week, doing a run once a week or maybe once in 2 weeks, but not much. But when I went to the US post IIT, I got into cycling there because California, being a beautiful state,
Hmm.
has a lot of great paths. And Craigslist was my favorite there to buy all the used stuff which I could afford with my student money. So building my own bike and doing all that stuff, going on trails and all. So cycling was something that I picked up there actively. But other than that, fitness was not something which was one of the most important things. But yeah, it was just like everybody else.
It's like a hobby or a fun activity for you on the side. Interesting. So did your
Exactly.
engineering skills help you put together a better bike?
Oh yeah, I think one way or the other, it was more fun and a great time pass and putting on a
Interesting.
bike.
I just bought a secondhand bike myself, and I was actively scouting Craigslist for pretty good options there. I ultimately went with one I found on Facebook Marketplace. But yeah,
Correct.
it's actually been pretty good. I love the bike I've got, and it's a good way for beginners to get into it. So I am 70.3. You cracked that last year. How did your journey into that start?
So frankly speaking, until about so this happened in October 2023, and until even June 2022, I was not aware what this Ironman thing is about. And maybe I heard a name or two, but I always thought that's something, it's not my cup of tea, so I never got into it. But 2022, there was a relay race. There was an opportunity in Goa, city in India, where there was an Ironman relay thing also which happened. And one of my friends dropped out because of an injury, and he passed on the spot to me. So I did the running part. So in the relay, what happens is everybody does things differently. So one guy runs, one guy swims, one guy cycles. So I got the opportunity to run. And when I went there in 2022 October, I just thought that the experience there was so amazing to see the athletes, to see those beautiful bikes lined up, and just being around them talking about fitness. That really excited in me that next year I'm going to do it. So it's all started there. And at that time, I never thought it was doable or not. I just thought that I have to do it, whatever it takes. So I had a target in mind. So that's how it started.
Very interesting. I relate really strongly to what you just conveyed about going to an event and not knowing what to expect. I mean, that happened to me when I went to my first marathon race. I was like, yeah, okay, people are running. What's it going to be, right? But the amount of energy that comes in both from the participants and from the crowd is just unbelievable. And last year, I volunteered at the half Ironman close to Seattle, and again, same thing. I mean, it's just so much fun to see people, trying their best and, beating the odds. So anybody who's, trying to get an introduction to the sport, volunteering is a great way to just understand the vibe and, see what it takes. And you'll see people of all shapes and forms, just gritting it out and doing it, right? So you'll really feel included if
Exactly.
you actually visit an event.
Definitely.
Um, Yep. So interesting. So you didn't have much of an introduction to the sport. You went to an event and decided this is something I must do. How did you go about, picking an event and starting to train?
Uh, so my first, since I had only gone to Goa, so I didn't know that there are so many Ironmans in the world. So I never went out to explore also. So I was already on the emailing list. I got an email that this is going to happen next. I think in Feb I got an email 2023. And like I said, I didn't know that there were so many Ironmans around the world. And I just registered, paid for it, and that's how it started. That's going to be. And later on, probably I did get a thought that probably I should have checked on what is a good temperature. Maybe an Ironman in Europe during June would have been much more fun than doing in October where it's scorching hot in Goa. But that's how it started. I didn't look for options, and I think my learning for that is if you have really too many options, they just confuse you. Pick one and just go for it.
Yeah, I'm sure we had an economics class on the fallacy of too many options. At some point, it does not return the same value, right? So very true. Well, if you're ever thinking of an interesting one to do, summer in Seattle is really beautiful. That's where I am. Would love to be on the course with you if you're ever around.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the city of
so,
Microsoft,
oh yeah, well, Microsoft, Amazon, Boeing, you name it.
Starbucks, my
Starbucks, of
favorite.
course. Oh yeah, of course. Interesting. So, when you decided to jump in, how was your, proficiency in all the different disciplines?
So, like I said, I registered in Feb. I didn't know swimming, so I
Wow.
definitely knew that I had to learn that sport. I didn't know how and etc. Cycling was decent. I mean, I did like 90K once in 6 months, but that was just only when I did cycling. Running 21K, I was doing frequently, like once in a quarter, once in a half year, etc. But never I did any two sports back to back, and I never did swimming. My swimming was so bad that I couldn't even cross the pool, the shorter length of the pool without, you know, taking a breath or without really feeling tired. So that was my stage when I registered.
Interesting. So, how did you go about training and what worked well?
So I trained by first having a coach, and my criteria for having a coach was a guy who was flexible and who had done before, so he knew what it takes. Whose strong part was my weakest, so who knew how to train swimmers. So since swimming was my weakest part, and then I sat with the coach. I told him where I was. I told him my expectations. We just kicked it off from there, and the first thing we started off was just swimming, basic techniques. And the good part about it was that the coach had more confidence in me because he said, if swimming is your weakest part, you're going to I bet you're going to swim a few laps in 30 days. If not, then I will quit. So he really put his reputation on line before mine.
Interesting. Very cool. And this was a single coach for all the three legs, or was it only a swimming specific coach?
No, it was a single coach for all three.
Interesting. So, what is the most difficult part of swimming as you started learning?
I think it was getting to know what was most important. For example, before I started swimming, I thought it's about the hand movement and it's about kicking off the legs. That you need to really kick a lot of leg and only then you'll move forward. And the surprising part was that that's actually totally not true. Like, it's like fish. Imagine your body and your movements need to be like a body, like a fish. You just need to glide, enjoy the water, breathe. The body will move.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess fish don't have legs for a reason, I suppose. Uh, Interesting. Got it. And what about training for open water? That come naturally to you?
So one thing I'd realized during the training about me was that I don't get scared very easily. And so my coach was more scared than me about the open water thing. So my first open water session happened around 9th of September,
Oh, wow.
which was
And you're,
just 1 month before the Ironman.
that is very interesting.
And yeah, so there's a lake nearby from here in Delhi, wherein we went and we did the open water session. So in the first open water session, I did almost 800 meters swimming after about 45 minutes. So that gave me a lot of confidence, and that was the last hurdle in my training. And after that, it was just staying in open water for 2 kilometers, 1.9 kilometers.
Very interesting. So, did you actually do the 2 kilometers or 1.9 kilometers before the race itself, or was the race the first time you did that distance?
So I'd done in the pool,
Okay,
and I had done about 80% of it in open water.
got it.
In the pool, I had done a few times. So my stamina and this was all set.
Interesting.
And open water, it's little easier because given the water is salted, so the body floats.
Yeah. And did you wear a wetsuit?
So wetsuits are not allowed in Goa because the temperature is greater than 23 degrees Celsius.
Oh,
They're only
interesting.
allowed if in Ironman, as per the Ironman rules, if the temperature is lower than that.
Got it. Interesting. Cool. So let's change tracks a little bit. Look, I mean, an Ironman, half Ironman is a lot of training effort. You run your own business, you have a family. How did you manage your schedule?
So before I got into full-time training, I first thought what takes up 80% of my time and has started delegating that, so that and made up my mind that results are not going to be 100%. So I need to be okay running my own business that you might get 70% of those results, but that's a compromise I will have to accept on the return that I'll be getting. The second thing, I fixed up that I wake up at 4:35, I train for 4 hours, and I should be in office by 11:30. So every day, 11:30 to 7, I had my own time for work, which was good enough.
Hmm.
6, 7 hours of work. And then in the evening, I spend an hour with kids and I sleep by 9. And it takes a lot of your wife's support, I should say, to actually make up your schedule because her life is equally compromised as yours.
Yeah, very true. Wow. So, I mean, that looks like a really disciplined effort waking up at the same, like how many months did you have to run this schedule?
So it was not that I started this schedule from day one. Let's say I started practically training in mid-April, and the schedule got fine very strict after my summer break, family summer vacation. So probably in July. So July, August, September was good, was
Intense.
decent, yeah, intense.
Interesting. Interesting. And did you encounter any injuries or anything that made you say, "Hey, man, I just signed up for something. I don't want to do this anymore. Let's pack it in."
So injuries are do part of the game. So I physical injuries, I didn't have any. I was only scared of the internal injuries like the muscle tear or etc., the pain and all. So I was quite conscious about the nutrition and the vitamins. So I got my blood test done before and every 3 months, and I
Hmm.
was replenishing all the nutrition. And I got to learn a lot about myself. And I used to have cramps a lot while running, and I realized that sodium was always on the lower scale. So I made it a point to really work on all the vitamins which used to get disturbed in my training, which really helped me avoid those internal injuries. Externally, you keep getting pain because of you've done 5 hours of exercise. So, you need to, work on ensuring that how to recover from them.
Very interesting. Cool. So heading into Ironman Day, did you feel like your preparation was up to scratch, or did you feel like there was something left in the tank?
So interesting, if I were to just answer that plainly, yes, I was ready. I was ready mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Physically, it was the test on the day itself.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened was that 4 days before I fell from my bike, I didn't have
Oh,
any injury throughout, and I was doing a recce of the route, and there was a steep slope. So if the event was on 9th, um, it was about 4th or 5th of October, and I skid, and I still had that scar on my left arm,
oh boy.
and it was deep. So, and anybody who saw was like, dude, I don't think you should be doing it. But in me, I knew that no matter what I need to do it, I've come this far not to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about my mental fitness and my own decision. As long as it's not risk to your life, I think it's just about testing your stamina and your mental ability. So my wife was with me. I got injured, and then um, I took rest. I found how I could really ensure that that injury doesn't interfere during the day of the event when I'm doing it. And, I just went about it.
Wow. I mean, the spirit of the show and the tagline is "show up," and I think you kind of embodied that by, fighting it through what looks like a serious injury, very, very close to the date. So kudos to you, man. I think it really brings out what we're trying to talk about in the show. So interesting prelude to the day, to race day. What is race day like?
So the race day was obviously you get jitters, you don't sleep well, no matter what. You might plan for 6 months to sleep 8 hours, sleep at 8 p.m., wake up at 4, eat the best of your meals and do all that stuff. But when it's race day, you're so like goosebumps, and you are just lying on your bed, turning sides, trying to sleep and all that. But ultimately, you wake up, you have your carbs, load your carbs, then reach the spot. And it was just a totally different feeling. It was so welcoming that today is your day that, you're going to be an Iron Man. I'd already thought about it that, today by the end of the day, I will be. So it was really exciting. It was really pumping. Uh, there was so many people to support you there that it thought that, even if you don't want to do it, these people will ensure that you finish it. So there was so much energy, excitement, being part of it, so many volunteers cheering you up, people you don't know. It becomes like these people are your family who are trying to take you along to finish the race. So,
Amazing.
and, it just was really great feeling.
Speaking of family, you have two young kids. Did they understand what all this was about?
So, yes, they knew, and they were my source of inspiration. And my son uh, was always like that when I grow up, I'm going to be an Ironman.
Wow.
And that really also pushes the boundary for you to really do it. Um, in fact, during the race, if you're asked what happened on the race day, a lot of complications did happen. And my son was standing, so that there was a route wherein you have to cross that 6 times on the run. So he was there every time at about 3.5 kilometers, 7, and like that. So, and he just told me one thing that still strikes me. And I said back to him. He said, Papa, take your own time. That time I knew it was not about the time that you take to finish. It's about just finishing it.
Yep.
It's about being an
Wow.
Ironman, not about what time you finish it.
I mean, that's intelligence or understanding I got in my 40s. So, kudos to your son to understand that so early in life. And, good luck to him, wishing him his first Ironman as soon as he's ready. So, walk us through the race. You said there were some complications. What happened?
So, this complication was that after I did my swim, it was all okay. After I did my cycling, I was all okay, and my cycling was really good. I picked up a lot of spots because my cycling was my strongest part. It was really hot, and all the food and everything you need to store on your bike. So when I came back from the race, I just few days before, people told me about dates being a very big source of energy, but nobody really told me that hot dates are not a good source of energy. And
Okay.
so I left the dates on the bike. They got hot in the sun, which was like 37 degrees Celsius, which would be like 100 Fahrenheit. And and I ate them when I came back from my cycling, and oh, they just reacted.
Oh,
And I
gosh.
was within 500 of meters of my run, I was just throwing up. And
Whoa.
the energy bars, the water, everything I had was just throwing out. And I thought, I think it's over. I don't know what I'm going to do. And my son was standing there, and my family there as well. I didn't tell them anything because then they would have definitely told me to, just stop. That you're puking all this while, and you don't just faint and fall. So it got complicated, and I was not used to the dates. And the first thing I learned is don't try something new, no matter what people say. Just do what you do every day.
Yep.
Everything will be okay. So I then, while running and keeping that in mind, that take your own time, I slowed my pace. And the basic principle, empty your stomach. I first emptied my stomach with everything. And then I did not take anything other than water. So
Wow.
that was the complication that happened, and ultimately I was able to pull it for those 21 kilometers. It did take me a lot of time, but I had a lot of time given the 8.5 hours you need to finish your Ironman 70.3.
Excellent. Oh, man. Uh, so no panic. Like you said earlier on that you don't get scared very easily. Did you feel any fear when this happened?
Mm, Rewinding on to that moment, I didn't feel fear
Okay.
because I thought calmly, I calculated. I said, worst thing I need to do is rest for 5 minutes and then come back on the run because I still have time.
Mm-hmm.
There is no restriction on, what you can't sit, you can't walk, that you have to run. You can do anything at your own pace. They're only concerned about the individual times.
Yep.
So I knew that, you know, I just need to get back on my basics, need to replan my strategy and stop what I was thinking, what I have to eat, when you're training, you tune yourself that this is when you're going to take the first gel, this is when you're going to do, have the 2 sips of water, this is what you're going to do, etc. Scrap everything and replan.
Hmm.
And I was confident because things started to improve with the 12th kilometer. I somehow dragged myself until the 10th kilometer, and then they started to improve. Then there was no looking back.
Fantastic, man. But kudos to you for your resilience and calm under pressure. I mean, I can't even imagine what it would feel like to be throwing up on your first Ironman. And that's crazy. I guess, note for the listeners, don't try anything new on race day. Just do what your body's used to. And there'll always be more time to experiment with new things later. So, race is not for that.
And and definitely, if you nothing goes as planned. If anything gets messed up, stop, delete, replan, and execute.
Got it. And I guess thankfully in your case, the swim and the bike were good, as you said. So no surprises there, thankfully. So that's great.
Just to add on in the swimming, there was a surprise. I got bitten by a jellyfish 500 meters into the swimming.
What?
Yeah, and it was on my left finger. And because jellyfish is very common in Goa, and people told me, and but there's nothing you can do about it.
Oh boy.
So but they also told me that as soon as you get bitten, just need to keep rubbing it so that it doesn't get into your skin. And that's what I kept doing all the while. And as soon as I got out of the ocean, I put vinegar, so that helped soothe it. And ultimately, I think that pain was lesser than the pain your body would have usually had.
That's insane. I mean, that's probably a detail you should have come out with sooner. Getting stung by a jellyfish is not something you plan for every day, but amazing, man. It's just crazy what you've gone through. So what's next for you? Is half Ironman? Are you going to do another one? Are you looking to do a full?
Yes, I would definitely do another half Ironman. I probably this year or early next year. Uh, uh, Regarding the full, it would require a lot of commitment, and it's definitely on my bucket list. After I do a few half and take care of a few things, because then I would be able to do a full. So before that, I'm training myself now for first a full marathon, because
Hmm.
I feel that marathon is 42 kilometers, 42K, something that I first need to get used to it. But I do really want to do a full Ironman, but I'm not sure when.
Interesting. Well, good luck to you. I'm sure you'll get there if you focus on it. And what advice would you have for other IM aspirants given your journey?
I would say don't think, just go for it. Plan once you have made up a target. First, register, pay for it, commit yourself. Second, get a coach. Listen to your coach. Don't be over smart than your coach, because I just blindly did what he said. I did not say he doesn't know me or he doesn't know that. I just did what he said, and I stuck around with him. It showed results. Don't miss your training, discipline your life. I think that's very important.
Very interesting. Cool. That's great advice. And I think that's a good note on which we can end the conversation. Thanks so much, Raghav, for sharing a pretty cool story and all the excitement of race day. Good luck to you in your journey towards your next half and your full marathon and ultimately a full Ironman. And I hope to see you in a race someday.
Great. Thanks, Ram, for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.